Wish I could change this to horizontal. Let's see. Oh well, we'll just be vertical today. Fix this camera. How's everyone doing? Last night we stopped at Genesis 18:9. So that's where we're going to start, but we're going to start off with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Till thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, let's dive in. Genesis 18:9. Where is Sarah, your wife? They asked him. In the tent, Abraham replied. Then one of them said, about this time next year I will return, and your wife Sarah will have a son. Now Sarah was listening to this conversation from the tent nearby. And since Abraham and Sarah were both very old, and Sarah was long past the age of having children, she laughed silently to herself. How could a worn out woman like me have a baby? She thought. And when my master, my husband, is also so old. Then the Lord said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh? Why did she say, can an old woman like me have a baby? Is anything too hard for the Lord? About a year from now, just as I told you, I will return and Sarah will have a son. Sarah was afraid, so she denied that she had laughed. But he said, that is not true, you did laugh. Then the men got up from their meal and started on toward Sodom. Abraham went with them part of the way. Should I hide my plan from Abraham, the Lord asked? For Abraham will become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed through him. I have singled him out so that he will direct his sons and their families to keep way of the Lord, and their families to keep the way of the Lord and to do what is right and just. Then I will do for him all that I have promised. So the Lord told Abraham, I have heard that the people of Sodom and Gomorrah are extremely evil, and that everything they do is wicked. I am going to go down to see whether or not these reports are true, then I will know. The two other men went on toward Sodom, but the Lord remained with Abraham for a while. Abraham approached him and said, will you destroy both innocent and guilty alike? Suppose you find 50 innocent people there within the city. Will you destroy it and not spare it for their sake? Surely you wouldn't do such a thing, destroying the innocent with the guilty. Why would be treating the innocent and guilty exactly the same? Surely you wouldn't do that. Should not the judge of all the earth do what is right? And the Lord replied, if I find 50 innocent people in Sodom, I will spare the entire city for their sake. Then Abraham spoke again, since I have begun, let me go on and speak further to my Lord, even though I am but dust and ashes. Suppose there are only 45. Will you destroy the city for the lack of 5? And the Lord said, I will not destroy it if I find 45. Then Abraham pressed his request even further. Suppose there are only 40. And the Lord replied, I will not destroy it if there are 40. Please don't be angry, my Lord, Abraham pleaded. Let me speak. Suppose only 30 are found. And the Lord replied, I will not destroy it if there are 30. Then Abraham said, since I have dared to speak to the Lord, let me continue. Suppose there are only 20. And the Lord said, then I will not destroy it for the sake of 20. Finally, Abraham said, Lord, please do not get angry. I will speak once more. Suppose there are only 10 found. And the Lord said, then for the sake of 10, I will not destroy it. The Lord went on his way when he had finished his conversation with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his tent. Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed, Genesis chapter 19. That evening, the two angels came to the entrance of the city of Sodom and Lot. And Lot was sitting there as they arrived. When he saw them, he stood up to meet them. Then he welcomed them and bowed low to the ground. My lords, he said, come to my home to wash your feet and be my guests for the night. You may then get up in the morning as early as you like and be on your way again. Oh no, they said, we'll just spend the night out here in the city square. But Lot insisted, so at last they went home with him. He set a great feast before them, complete with fresh bread made without yeast. After the meal, as they were preparing to retire for the night, All the men of Sodom, young and old, came from all over the city and surrounded the house. They shouted to Lot, "Where are the men who came to spend the night with you? Bring them out so we can have sex with them." Lot stepped out to talk to them, shutting the door behind him. "Please, my brother," he begged, "don't do such a wicked thing. Look, I have 2 virgin daughters. Do with them as you wish, but leave these men alone, for they are under my protection." "Stand back," they shouted. "Who do you think you are? We let you settle among us, and now you are trying to tell us what to do? We'll treat you far worse than those other men." And they lunged at Lot and began breaking down the door. But the 2 angels reached out and pulled Lot in and bolted the door. Then they blinded the men of Sodom so they couldn't find the doorway. "Do you have any other relatives here in the city?" the angels asked. "Get them out of this place, son-in-laws, sons, daughters, or anyone else, for we will destroy the city completely. The stench of the place has reached the Lord, and he has sent us to destroy it." So Lot rushed out to tell his daughters, fiancés, "Quick, get out of the city. The Lord is going to destroy it." But the young men thought he was only joking. At dawn the next morning, the angels became insistent. "Hurry," they said to Lot. "Take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here. Get out of here right now, or you will be caught in the destruction of the city." When Lot still hesitated, the angel seized his hand in the hands of his wife and the 2 daughters and rushed to the safety outside the city of the Lord. For the Lord was merciful. "Run for your lives," the angels warned. Do not stop. Do not stop anywhere in the valley, and don't look back. Escape the mountains or you will die. "Oh no, my Lord, please," Lot begged. "You have been so kind to me and saved my life, and you have granted me such mercy, but I cannot go to the mountains. Disaster would catch up to me there, and I would soon die. See, there is a small village nearby. Please let me go there instead. Don't you see how small it is? Then my life will be saved." "All right," the angel said, "I will grant your request. I will not destroy that little village. But hurry, for I can do nothing until you are there." From that time on, the village was known as Zoar. The sun was rising as Lot reached the village. Then the Lord rained down fire and burning sulfur from heavens on Sodom and Gomorrah. He utterly destroyed them, along with other cities and villages of the plain, eliminating all life, people, plants, and animals alike. But Lot's wife looked back as she was following along behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. Wow. The next morning, Abraham was up early and hurried out to the place where he had stood in the Lord's presence. He looked out across the plain to Sodom and Gomorrah and saw columns of smoke and fumes, as from a furnace rising from the cities there. But God had listened to Abraham's request and kept Lot safe, removing him from the disaster that engulfed the cities of the plain. Afterwards, Lot left Zoar because he was afraid of the people there, and he went to live in a cave in the mountains with his 2 daughters. One day, the older daughter said to her sister, "There isn't a man anywhere in this entire area for us to marry, and our father will soon be too old to have children. Come, let's get him drunk with wine, and then we will sleep with him. That way we'll preserve our family line through our father." So that night they got him drunk, and the older daughter went in and slept with her father. He was unaware of her lying down or getting up again. It's pretty gross, but we're going to continue. The next morning, the older daughter said to her younger sister, "I slept with our father last night. Let's get him drunk with wine again tonight, and you go in and sleep with him. That way our family line will be preserved." So that night they got him drunk again, and the younger daughter went in and slept with him. As before, he was unaware of her lying down or getting up. So both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. When the older daughter gave birth to a son, she named him Moab. He became the ancestor of the nation now known as Moabites. When the younger daughter gave birth to a son, she named him Ben-Ami. He became the ancestor of the nation now known as the Ammonites. Keep in mind, guys, all these biblical names, probably not going to pronounce them correctly, but we're going to do our best. All right, we're on chapter 20, Genesis. Abraham deceives Abimelech. Now Abraham moved south to Negev and settled for a while between Kadesh and Shur at a place called Gerar. Abraham told people there that his wife Sarah was his sister. So King Abimelech sent for her and had brought him to his palace. But one night God came to Abimelech in a dream and told him, "You are a dead man, for that woman you took is married." But Abimelech had not slept with her yet, so he said, "Lord, will you kill an innocent man?" Abraham told me she is my sister, and she said herself, "Yes, he is my brother. I acted in complete innocence." "Yes, I know you are innocent," God replied. "That is why I kept you from sinning against me. I did not let you touch her. Now return her to her husband, and he will pray for you, for he is a prophet. Then you will live, but if you don't return her to him, you can be sure that you and your entire household will die." Abimelech got up early the next morning and hastily called a meeting of all his servants. When he told them what had happened, great fear swept through the crowd. Then Abimelech called for Abraham. "What is this you have done to us?" he demanded. "What have I done to you that deserves treatment like this, making me and my kingdom guilty of this great sin? This kind of thing should not be done. Why have you done this to us?" Well, Abraham said, "I figured this to be a godless place, I thought. They will want my wife and will kill me to get her. Besides, she is my sister. We both have the same father, though different mothers, and I married her. When God sent me to travel far from my father's home, I told her, 'Wherever we go, have the kindness to say that you are my sister.' Then Abimelech took sheep and oxen and servants, both men and women, and gave them to Abraham, and he returned his wife Sarah to him. 'Look over my kingdom and choose a place where you would like to live,' Abimelech told him. Then he turned to Sarah. 'Look,' he said, 'I am giving your brother 1,000 pieces of silver to compensate for any embarrassment I may cause you. This will settle any claim against me in this matter.' Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and the other women of the household, so they could have children. For the Lord had stricken all the women with infertility as a warning to Abimelech for having taken Abraham's wife." Getting kind of dicey. Genesis chapter 21, the birth of Isaac. Then the Lord did exactly what he promised. Sarah became pregnant and she gave a son to Abraham in his old age. It all happened at the time God had said it would, and Abraham named his son Isaac. 8 days after Isaac was born, Abraham circumcised him as God had commanded. Abraham was 100 years old at that time, and Sarah declared, "God has brought me laughter. All who hear about this will laugh with me. For who would have dreamed that I would ever have a baby, yet have given Abraham a son in his old age?" As time went by and Isaac grew and was weaned, Abraham gave a big party to celebrate the happy occasion. But Sarah saw Ishmael, the son of Abraham, and her Egyptian servant Hagar making fun of Isaac. So she turned to Abraham and demanded, "Get rid of that servant and her son. He is not going to share the family inheritance with my son Isaac. I won't have it." This upset Abraham very much because Ishmael was his son. But God told Abraham, "Do not be upset over the boy and your servant's wife. Do just as Sarah says, for Isaac is the son through whom your descendants will be counted. But I will make a nation of the descendants of Hagar's son, because he is also your son." So Abraham got up early the next morning, prepared food for the journey, and strapped a container of water to Hagar's shoulders. He sent her away with their son, and she walked into the wilderness of Beersheba, wandering aimlessly. When the water was gone, she left the boy in the shade of a bush. Then she went and sat down by herself about 100 yards away. "I don't want to watch the boy die," she said as she burst into tears. Then God heard the boy's cries, and the angel of the God called to Hagar from the sky. "Hagar, what's wrong? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy's cries from the place where you laid him. Go to him and comfort him, for I will make a great nation from his descendants." Then God opened Hagar's eyes, and she saw well. She immediately filled her water container and gave the boy a drink. And God was with the boy as he grew up in the wilderness of Paran. He became an expert archer, and his mother arranged a marriage for him with a young woman from Egypt. About this time, Abimelech came with Phicol and his army commander to visit Abraham. "It is clear that God helps you in everything you do," Abimelech said. "Swear to me in God's name that you don't deceive me, my children, or my grandchildren. I have been loyal to you, so now swear that you will be loyal to me and to this country in which you are living." Abraham replied, "All right, I swear to it." Then Abraham complained to Abimelech about a well that Abimelech's servants had taken violently from Abraham's servants. "This is the first I've heard of it," Abimelech said, "and I have no idea who is responsible. Why didn't you say something about this before?" Then Abraham gave sheep and oxen to Abimelech, and they made a treaty. But when Abraham took 7 additional ewe lambs and set them off by themselves, Abimelech asked, "Why are you doing that?" Abraham replied, "They are my gift to you as a public confirmation that I dug this well." So ever since that place has been known as Beersheba, well of the oath, because that was where they had sworn an oath. After making their covenant, Abimelech left with Phicol, the commander of his army, and they returned home to the land of the Philistines. Then Abraham planted a tamarisk tree at Beersheba, and he worshipped the Lord, the eternal God, at that place. And Abraham lived in Philistine country for a long time. Genesis chapter 22. Abraham's obedience is tested. Later on, God tested Abraham's faith and obedience. "Abraham," God called. "Yes," he replied. "Here I am. Take your son, your only son, yes, Isaac, whom you love so much, and go to the land of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains which I will point out to you." The next morning, Abraham got up early. He saddled his donkey and took 2 of his servants with him along with his son Isaac. Then he chopped wood to build a fire for a burnt offering and set out for the place where God had told him to go. On the 3rd day of the journey, Abraham saw the place in the distance. "Stay here with the donkey," Abraham told the young men. "The boy and I will travel a little further. We will worship there, and then we will come right back." Abraham placed the wood for the burnt offering on Isaac's shoulders, while he himself carried the knife and the fire. As the 2 of them went on together, Isaac said, "Father?" "Yes, my son," Abraham replied. "We have the wood and the fire," said the boy, "but where is the lamb for the sacrifice?" "God will provide a lamb, my son," Abraham answered, and they both went on together. Man, can you imagine having to go sacrifice your own son? I mean, there's no way I would have enough faith to be able to do that myself. That's just absolutely crazy. Thank God that he doesn't end up having to sacrifice his son. But let's continue. When they arrived at the place where God had told Abraham to go, he built an altar and placed the wood on it. Then he tied Isaac up and laid him on the altar over the wood. And Abraham took the knife and lifted it up to kill his own son as a sacrifice to the Lord. At that moment, the angel of the Lord shouted to him from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham!" "Yes," he answered, "I'm listening." "Lay down the knife," the angel said. "Do not hurt the boy in any way, for now I know that you truly fear God. You have not withheld even your beloved son from me." Then Abraham looked up and saw a ram caught by its horns in a bush. So he took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering on the altar in place of his son. Abraham named the place, "The Lord will provide." This name has now become a proverb. On the mountain of the Lord it will be provided. Then the angel of the Lord called again to Abraham from heaven. "This is what the Lord says, because you have obeyed me and have not withheld even your beloved son, I swear by my own self that I will bless you richly. I will multiply your descendants into countless millions like the stars of the sky and the sand of the seashore. They will conquer their enemies, and through your descendants all the nations of the earth will be blessed, all because you have obeyed me." Then they returned to Abraham's young men and traveled home again to Beersheba, where Abraham lived for quite some time. Soon after this, Abraham heard that Milcah, his brother, Nahor's wife, had borne Nahor 8 sons. The oldest was named Uz. The next oldest was Buz, followed by Kemuel, the father of Aram, Kist, Hazo, Pildash, Jidlaph, and Bethuel. Bethuel became the father of Rebekah. In addition to 8 sons from Milcah, Nahor had 4 other children from his concubine, Ramah. Their names were Taba, Gaham, Tehash, and Makkah. Genesis chapter 23. If you haven't hit the like button, make sure and hit that and subscribe. That way we can get in the algorithms and spread the good old word. All right, Genesis chapter 23, the burial of Sarah. When Sarah was 127 years old, she died at Kiriath Arba, now called Hebron, in the land of Canaan. There Abraham mourned and wept for her. Then leaving her body, he went to the Hittite elders and said, "Here I am, a stranger in a foreign land, with no place to bury my wife. Please let me have a piece of land for a burial plot." The Hittites replied to Abraham, "Certainly, for you are an honored prince among us. It will be a privilege to have you choose the finest of our tombs so you can bury her there." Then Abraham bowed low before them and said, "Since this is how you feel, be so kind as to ask Ephron, son of Zohar, to let me have the cave of Machpelah down at the end of his field. I want to pay the full price, of course, whatever is publicly agreed upon, so I may have a permanent burial place for my family." Ephron was sitting there among the others, and he answered Abraham as the others listened, speaking publicly before all the elders of the town. "No, sir," he said to Abraham, "please listen to me. I will give you the cave and the field. Here in my presence of my people, I give it to you. Go and bury your dead." Abraham bowed again to the people of the land. He replied to Ephron as everyone listened. "Now listen to me," he insisted. "I will buy it from you. Let me pay the full price for the field so I can bury my dead there." Well, Ephron answered, "The land is worth 400 pieces of silver. But what is that between friends? Go ahead and bury your dead." So Abraham paid Ephron the amount he had suggested, 400 pieces of silver, as was publicly agreed. He bought the plot of the land belonging to Ephron at Machpelah near Mamre. This included the field, the cave that was in it, and all the trees nearby. They became Abraham's permanent possession by the agreement made in the presence of the Hittite elders at the city gate. So Abraham buried Sarah there in Canaan, in the cave of Machpelah near Mamre, which is at Hebron. The field and the cave were sold to Abraham by the Hittites as a permanent burial place. All right, guys, we're going to stop there. Tomorrow we will get back to it. Genesis chapter 24. Thank you if you have been with me on this journey. If this is your first day, you can always go back to day 1 and catch up and catch us tomorrow. We'll see y'all later. Peace. God bless.